Hey everybody, welcome to Raising Your Vibrations and your assignment today. And in today's video, we're going to be exploring the new moon in Cancer. And this is for the 9th and 10th of July, 2021. So depending on where you are in the world, that will be the date that you'll have this new moon energy take place. Cool, so I'm really excited to jump into this video with you today. There's so many layers to talk about, and I hope that I will be able to express myself in a way that allows you to follow me as I dive super deep into what I consider this new moon to be. One quick announcement that I want to put across, you'll hear me talk about a lot of direction at this point in time. You'll see how this energy speaks to people making new choices under old circumstances and wanting to move in new directions. And for those of you that feel that you are at the precipice of wanting to self-actualize and you want to make changes in your life in a way that is bringing you out into your truth, like this is what I feel like I'm meant to do, and you have you have financial stability, then I'd like to invite you onto a call and have a conversation with you, me or Jen. And it's a free 15-minute call, and we'll see if there's an opportunity for us to work with you. So if you are feeling that that's something that you want to do, you're at a place where you want to self-actualize, down below in the comment section and in the description, there's a link to a page, and you can book a free 15-minute call with us. And we'll see, maybe there's an opportunity for us to help you out with that. Okay. All right. So where do I start? Where do I start with this new moon? Okay. I've got my notes over here, but having a look, I'm just kind of reorientating myself. Let me start off firstly by talking about the last full moon. So in Capricorn. All right. So we had a full moon in Capricorn, and one of the things I said was that we would be re-exposed to feelings around what we were experiencing in 2020. Okay, so we would be rekindled with our emotional response and experience that we had during 2020. Okay, so this would come to the surface, and we'd be processing those feelings in the background. This new moon brings it to the head. It brings our emotional response to that reality to the forefront of our world right now. And we will experience limitations triggered in the outside environments that will force us to then look at how we emotionally feel around things in our lives and where we feel that we are needing to make changes and adjustments, okay, emotionally. And that's one level. The next level is that you will start to see in your rekindling of this emotional self, right? So there's this part of you that is the 2020 version of you and your world, and then there's the one that is today, okay? And this rekindling will do two things, or one of two things. It's going to create a divide, okay, where people will respond to that older self as, hey, I've missed you. I'm so glad that you're back, and I'm so glad to have my world back in the way that it is. And those that have felt that they have shed skin, liberated themselves from a pattern that is completely false about themselves, and that they've jumped into something completely new, and it's very fresh, it's very raw, it's a little bit uncomfortable because it's like, where is the direction going? And so there are these two parallel realities that are going to run like this, okay? And the kind of like binding agent towards it is this new moon, as it promotes the feeling of returning back to something that feels familiar and new, or jumping out of the boat and moving into something completely new as a way of liberation. And both sets of patterns will actually feel like liberation, right? One will feel like their self has been shed, and others will feel like they're returning back to something that is familiar. And the archetype of Cancer is associated with tradition. And the reason why is because we're returning back to the same place consistently. That's why when our home is associated with Cancer, or it is the part of the family or familiar, with familiar faces, right? We're going back to something as familiar. Or you've liberated yourself from something that is not what you identify with, and now you're on a new path. So this split's going to take place, and it's already begun, right? So so that's a big thing, okay? And you'll see that occur, and it will, have to do with Saturn in Aquarius, squaring Uranus in Taurus, and Mars and Venus in Leo. And I'm sure many of you over the last 2 weeks have really felt the heat of that square bubbling up, and that's what's promoted us to come to this point on this new moon, where we're beginning to look at our emotional relationship to it. And what I wanted to bring to the surface was for this new moon, because it's going to be it's going to form an opposition to Pluto. Part of this energy is also about letting go. Okay, it's actually about processing your feelings towards certain attachments that you have in your life and letting them go. So on one hand, I am saying that there are these two paths that are taking place. But in terms of my personal kind of like view of this energy, it's not talking about familiarity. It's talking about, in a sense, looking at what you no longer resonate with or recognize as something that is familiar or true to you, and shedding that, letting it go. So we get born into a world where we get, in a sense, impressions of do's and don'ts. This is what the culture says. This is what our society says. This is what the laws say. And depending on the way that we interact with that conditioning will dictate how our sense of self is shaped. And so this new moon in Cancer is speaking to the potential to awaken parts of yourself that no longer represent the truth for you. And as you shed out of these conditioned selves and you start to see what's really inside of you, you start to see that that something is emerging out of you that's not a representation of what you were told you are. Okay, and so this letting go process is very clear at this point in time. Okay, and the pattern that holds that in place is Saturn's relationship to Aquarius. So if I said to you, okay, I'd like you to cross a bridge, and some of the sort of parts of the bridge are not secure, okay, and some of the railing may not be 100% like solid, there's a very strong likelihood that for a majority of people will say, well, that doesn't make sense to want to cross because I could die. Like, what happens if it breaks? I could die. And this is something that, in a way, I'm trying to equate back to when we move out of or step out of our more primal relationship to life. Okay, when we step out of that, we start to see that the things that we want to do in our lives require us to cross a threshold. And that threshold is taking a leap of faith or believing in yourself, or in most cases, actually crossing that fear. And that fear is associated with what happens if I die. Like, it doesn't take a lot for the nervous system to feel that it's threatened. And you can even see this in the connection between when we have like the Southern and Sagittarius, for example, and our beliefs, right? Somebody starts to question our beliefs. Notice how you may feel threatened if somebody challenges your ideas or your beliefs. And one of the reasons why that's the case is because we emotionally bond with the belief as an identity. And so if somebody starts to threaten your identity or your Cancer part of yourself, which is the sense of self, your nervous system reacts. And so that's why we become very defensive sometimes around our beliefs and our ideas about things or our truths, because at a somatic level, we feel that we're being threatened. Okay. And of course, that's the nervous system just kicks in. We're biological beings, right? Our ideas are abstract in that sense, but when it interfaces with the biology of yourself, you're going to experience something more primal. And so this new moon invites those that are looking to shed their skin of false selves to A, do that, and B, to look at how your fear is being triggered by a more primal relationship to yourself, and then to just be with it, just not even try and fix it in the sense of, oh, this is broken, or just more along the lines of just be with that part of yourself and just reinforce, hey, it's okay, there's no tiger there. because you're wanting to really communicate to the more primal part of yourself that is telling you, oh my God, I'm going to die, Simon. Like if I take that leap of faith, or if I follow my dream, like what happens if this occurs? Okay. So the idea here is to recognize that if you're stepping out of something that is what you have always been told or conditioned to believe that you should be, or that you don't resonate with yourself at a deeper level, and that you want to break out of that, that first step is recognizing that part of crossing that threshold is recognizing that the fear that holds you there is just a fear at a somatic level of your body, like your body saying, hey, I could die. Okay. So with that being said, Saturn in Aquarius, Saturn is the part that says, let's reinforce the same thing over and over. Here's the boundary, it's safe. Aquarius says, no, decentralize it, break it down, transform it, open yourself up, right? Expose yourself to something a little bit more, become more resilient. And through resilience, we internalize a more internal emotional security. And this is what this energy also holds for us, is the potential to internalize security that is not based on the external, but is actually rooted in your internal relationship to yourself. So that's where I see the split taking place with this Uranus-Saturn square at the moment, is those that are not afraid to step out of the comfort zone, and those that are willing to challenge their own limitations and break out of them to step into roles of leadership, to believe that their life has more to it than just conditioned beliefs that are rooted in our upbringing, etc. Okay, so there's another component to this that I think is really powerful. And the sun, sorry, not the sun, but Mars and Venus in Leo in a balsamic phase, but then we'll move into a new phase on the 13th, will speak to a reflection point up until the 13th, and you'll hear me talk about it in the thing, a reflection point up until the 13th. So we're reflecting on us being forced into our emotional world, reflecting on whether or not this is what we want with our lives or not, and then moving on with it. When that new phase Mars-Venus hits on the 13th of July, we will feel a different spark of energy. We will experience that sense of wanting to move in a new direction. And it will feel a little bit uncomfortable because there will be no pattern in front of you of how it relates. There will be no pattern in front of you that says this is the way to go. So you need to be very open and curious about where your instincts are pulling you towards, as opposed to what your mind will maybe saying to you, oh, this is a bad idea, I shouldn't do this, etc. No, let your instincts pull you and guide you and get more in touch with them, and allow yourself the freedom to experiment and explore different things with this new phase energy that will hit on the 13th, okay? So my words to you are Saturn in Aquarius is developing, nurturing, quality-based support and dialogue. So developing, what you're wanting to do is start making relationships with people who like bring out the best in you, okay? Starting to make decisions in your life that are rooted in what is the quality of this dialogue, what is the quality of this relationship, what is the quality of this reality, and starting to up our self-esteem, starting to recognize your self-worth, starting to notice that you have something to contribute if you feel that that's part of your trajectory, okay? And really basically starting to subscribe to things that grow you, that support you, that strengthen you, right? That give you the ability to believe in your dreams, okay? So that's there. And then the Jupiter retrograde, my words were cultivating an explorer mindset. And again, because of the new phase energy between Mars and Venus that will start to occur on the 13th, cultivating an explorer mindset will really, really support you in this this next two-year cycle of beginning to see what life's like outside of your familiar comfort zone. Okay, so pushing your boundaries a little bit more and exploring greater limits. Okay, cool. So I think that's it. I'm going to jump onto the astrology chart now for us, and we'll explore more how this is actually showing up for us astrologically. All right, so Saturn in Aquarius, Uranus in Taurus, Mars, Venus, and they're creating the T square there, right? So you can see it over here. That's it there. There's the oppositions to Saturn. There's the squares to Uranus. Now, Aquarius, Taurus, and Leo is the instinct when they are combined together. They express the instinct in life to create distinction in the expressions of life. Okay, so what I mean by this is, if you took a tree, and this tree, like an oak, for instance, an oak tree, right? It's pretty big. Its branches are pretty strong. It's large by nature. And then you take a smaller tree. I can't name anything at this moment in time. Like a smaller tree, if you put the two together, your ability to tell the difference between the two is reflected through their individual expression. Okay, so similarly, if you took a rose and a lily, for instance, you would be able to differentiate the two because of the nature of their expression. So Aquarius, Leo, and Taurus, when you combine those three archetypes together, or if you have planets in those archetypes, what you have is diversification, through distinction, that is manifested or materialized through an individual blueprint that is held within that genetic sequence. Okay, so each of us has a specific, personal myth that is held within your DNA, that's held within your genetics, and these archetypes are essentially stimulating the pattern of creativity within yourself. And then when it shows up in your conscious awareness, it will look like feeling that you resonate and subscribe to a certain group of people, and you don't resonate and subscribe to a certain group of people. Okay, diversification. And the even deeper context to this scenario has a lot to do with the way that we no longer live in a world where everybody watches the same thing. So in 1960, you had a television, and that television would say, this is what's on TV, and you get to choose that or not. You get to say, yep, I'm going to watch that or not. But you can't flick through channels, or you can't scroll through your subscription list on YouTube. But we now live in a world where that is a reality. And so this pattern at an even deeper level is facilitating not only the closing of an age that we can use as a Pisces age cycle, 2,000 years, but it also reflects the evolutionary intent that we are moving towards as a species, okay, or that life is expressing itself on reality, however you wish to define that. Okay, so to summarize, this pattern very simply is saying, hey, who do you want to hang out with and who do you not? Who are your people and who are not? Okay, and it's very clear, and you will see the shedding taking place. And I talk about this in the first part of this video, where I shared these two parallel realities, right? It's those that are returning back to something that feels like their life has now returned back to normal, and those that have changed their path completely, and the new normal is the reality in which they've never explored before, right? And this energy at the moment is reflecting those two patterns running parallel. And yeah, so that's what that is. Okay, and it's facilitating the new direction, right? Who do you want to associate? What environments do you want to be? Who and what do you want to associate yourself with? Okay. Then if we look at this pattern over here, of course, this moon sun opposition to Pluto in Cancer Capricorn. Okay, and then if you look here, Chiron is sitting in Aries. There is a square that has been taking place with the sun to Chiron. Of course, Chiron is not squaring Pluto at this point in time, so it's not an exact T-square, but these are significant. These patterns are significant as an addition to the other pattern that I was referring to here, which is the Leo, Mars, Venus themes. Okay, why? Because Mars and Venus are relationship patterns within our way of being. It's our relationship, the energies that reflect the way that we relate. And Mars is associated with Aries, and Venus is associated with Taurus. So there is an interlink between this aspect here that's having it there and this Venus squaring Uranus there. Okay. And what does that look like? How is it showing up? Well, again, when you subscribe to people, like I talked about around the beginning, when you subscribe to people, you subscribe because on some level you feel an emotional resonance. Okay, so you start to form an emotional bond towards the subscription. And so this energy essentially here is with the Pluto in opposition to, I'm going to change the color here because it's really irritating me. The Pluto in opposition to Cancer, you all would have felt at some point over the last 2 weeks, and this would have reached now a culmination point, some frustration or some blocking in a direction or in a direction that you wanted to go. And that would have led to an emotional involution. So you would have been forced in on yourself relative to something that's blocked you, and then you would be starting to process your inner emotional world. And in that place of processing your inner emotional world, you'll come to clarity around things like who you want to associate yourself with and not, where you feel that you are being nourished or not, where you want to belong or not. That's that. And then there's also the part of it that is associated with the Taurus, which is what are the values that you hold and how have they shifted for you? Does that make sense? So the Pluto Sun opposition is really forcing this internal emotional work, and because it's in a cardinal sign, Cancer, Capricorn, Aries there, we're talking about a shift in direction. So this energy speaks to a shift in direction. It speaks to creating new patterns of emotional relatability, which will, when Mars and Venus actually cross each other on the 13th, you will feel the energy to move forward in the choices that you've made up until this point in time. Okay, so you've had to make some really tough choices. You've had to process through some grief and letting go of things very deep. And once we've gone through this closing phase between these two planets, Mars, Venus, on the 13th, you will feel the energy shift, and there will be an opportunity now to begin exploring and growing and experiencing a new direction. And that will contribute to what I see as an even furthering of people's relationship to what I consider to be a shared ideal. In other words, if you had to place two people standing next to each other and then draw a line between them for like 300 meters in front of them, and that line would be dividing people. Okay, that division will be caused by people's relationship to how they are returning back to the normal part of reality, or those that are stepping out of that old world and shifting into something completely new and exploring something completely new. Okay, and this energy is essentially promoting that frequency to take place, and you'll see it happen more and more and more. Okay, so this is a pattern at the moment that will begin to really be seen in the collective in about 6 months' time. You'll watch it when the new moon happens in Capricorn. You'll see the reflection of the choices that you've made here at this point. So it's pretty big transit. Alrighty, everybody. I really hope that you got a lot of value out of this video, and that my conversation with you right in the beginning, plus this chart synthesis, has opened up new pathways and new doorways to explore how this new moon energy is going to impact you, and also how it's going to lead you to the people and the environments and the situations that are not only nurturing to yourself, but also start to cultivate a sense of identity and a sense of self that's more authentic and more aligned and more truthful for what it is that's actually real inside of you. Okay, so yeah. And like I said right in the beginning of the video, down below in the description and the comment section, you'll see a link. And I'm inviting you to a call, either to talk to me or Jennifer. For those of you who are specifically looking to self-actualize, you feel like this is the time for you to jump in and follow your personal myth. and you're financially in a position where you're not kind of surviving in that sense, then jump on a call with us, and we'll see. Maybe there's an opportunity for us to work together, and we'll try and see if there is a possibility for us to support as well. Okay, all right. So guys, have an amazing week, and until the next video, take care. Bye bye.